with another Spirit of Matter episode, and this is the obligatory full moon in Leo. This is the chart of where I begin this recording, and let's change to my location, which means we get the hour and see how this unelected election plays in the video. Okay, so this is not the chart of the full moon yet. But the ascendant is on Leo, with Lilith in Leo. The moon is in Cancer, planning to oppose Pluto, so I'm having a little more time before it opposes Pluto, so stay strong. Stay strong during the opposition to Pluto hours, and already separating from opposition to Mercury. It's a Mars, okay, it's a Mars hour. Venus Day, Mars hour. So my prediction for the themes that I'm going to bring up with this time frame is that there are going to be a discussion about the actions of people, Mars, concerning relationship, concerning finances, or divisive information regarding relationships around this full moon, or regarding finances or diplomacy, because Venus is also diplomacy, ruling Libra. And this is my prediction that that's what's going to come up. So there can be things that I say that you might feel something, okay? You might feel resistance. So let's all of us be aware of that being able to arise, and I'll try to be more diplomatic and accommodating, although Mars is in Gemini. And there is a square between the rulers of the hour and the day. So, and almost Venus applies to exactly square Mars. So it's a good time to gaze into this energy and to observe and to analyze, or maybe try to remediate or work joint with this energy. It's also interesting, like you might get aggravated by what you hear, or I might touch on things that I was aggravated by. Or whatnot, and the midheaven is right on Uranus. Ooh, talking about a revolution. So, it was not a pre-elected election. It's just like, I want to record it. Let's do it. So this is the beginning of the election. You can screenshot it, as I do, and look at what I'm going to say in the framework of this election. What I'm going to say is in the framework of another election, which is the full moon in Leo. And we can do annual calendar, which also gets the moons. And we get the Leo one. And here we are at the date of discussion. So 5 February is only 2 days from where I am, And this will be the chart. So we're looking from the perspective of the chart that we began with on this chart. Okay, just the point of observation that we previously discussed. And now there is what we are observing, or the target of observation. And target is a very Martian word to begin with, and this is this chart. February 5 in the Middle East, full moon in Leo. As with all full moons, you need to look 6 months back to what you had started. Okay, that's something I also said in my February forecast. What had started for you 6 months ago? So that was probably around August, right? We are in February, so that would be January, December, November, October, September, and then August. So around mid-August, beginning of August, and you look what was in your life back then. That was the new moon in Leo, and the sun was with the moon, and so the sun was in Leo. Now she crossed half the zodiac. She's in her detriment sign. Okay, the full moon in Leo, the new moon in Leo was with the sun naturally in Leo. And that was 6 months ago. So you started something 6 months ago in your Leo house. And we're going to talk about the houses as we proceed. I'm going to just give a general introduction. And this is now beginning to culminate. There is a culmination to this. But there is an interesting facet of the face of the stars at this point in time. For starters, while we started with a moon in its home sign, we're ending this cycle, or culminating this cycle, with the full moon, with the moon in the sign of its detriment. Okay, so with the sun in the sign of its detriment. Okay, and this makes this cycle unique. Why? Because if the sun was in Cancer and she ended up in Capricorn, she's not exalted either in Cancer or in Capricorn. There's no problem. Okay. The only similar axis would be Aries and Libra, because the sun is exalted in Aries, this degree of exaltation of the sun. And of course, if she's exalted in Aries, she's going to be in fall in Libra. Okay, so that's a similar cycle where you get a new moon in Aries and then you get a full moon in Libra. It's a similar cycle where you start in exalted, but where you're ending, the sun is ending in detriment. Now, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It just means that the sun is more aware of the Aquarius polarity. That's not her home. She's more aware of the things that are not her exaltation. And what does Leo do? Leo rules out. When I was looking for a picture for this, I found a picture of a painting that I did an episode about, which you will see in the end of February. And it had a spiral around, and I found it Sol, center. Okay, the center of the galaxy. That the planets revolve around it. To all those people who think that us astrologers are looking at charts and thinking that, you know, we're an Earth-centric. No, we're not Earth-centric, but we understand that we on Earth experience the implications of the planets in relative to their distance from the Earth. Okay, we are also aware of retrogression, which is an illusion created by the alteration of the relation between the distances of the planet to the sun and the planet to the earth. Now, if this statement is too complicated for you, then to begin with, you should not accuse astrologers of being earth-centric. Yeah. And then, okay. Then I like this tone is quite Martian. I can identify this tone as Martian, self-awareness, and it's Martian against the people who believe that they are sciencey or that they know something or that they know better than astrologers and are actually, you know, bogus. So it's an interesting one. Yeah, sun is already in Aquarius, applying to, well, the moon is applying to oppose it in Leo. Now the moon is still in Cancer, a sign of his home. The sun is something that is the center. It's about performance. It's about the need to be appreciated. It's about being the light to people, okay, being inspiration to people, touching the hearts of people. Okay, is also the sun. Sun rules the heart. It also rules the one of the eyes. Okay, so eyesight, being able to see and be seen, the visibility. And Aquarius rules logical thinking is a very interesting word here, because anybody who does delve into logical thinking knows that they have to be informed about the psychological biases of it. And this very notion is very delineable for, you know, for for this configuration, the moon being the body reflecting light, being in the sun, being in the sun's house, okay, then in the sign of the body that emits light, okay, that's the sun, the yang, and the yin and the yang, and the sun being in Saturn's sign with Saturn, okay. The performer, and the sun is also intelligence. So sun is not just, person being wearing the heart on the sleeve, it's also intelligence. It's brightness. Okay, literally to be bright. I hope it's not culturally, like, I hope it's not like, I did not mean to be non-PC in this declaration, so it's like, it's not that way. It's just a sense of light. By the way, if you talk about skin, because Saturn is skin, then being exposed to the light, being exposed to the sun repeatedly, what does the skin get? It gets dark. Okay, so you get the polar opposite. Why? Because you have to defend the skin from the light of the sun, from its rays. So if you are exposed to too much sun, then your skin will become darker, so you can observe less rays. This is why if you're dark colored skin, and you're, let's say, in Europe, then you would need to take extra precautions to not have seasonal affective like stuff, like or the type of ailments that you would get by lack of exposure to the sun, because your skin was designed to live in high exposure to the sun. Yeah, so the performer, the person who wears their heart on the sleeve, is now in a place where the other polarity is met, where the appreciation is to the masses. The appreciation is to ideas less than to people. Okay. The appreciation is to being the contrarian to society rather than the leader in society. So think about think about a person who is coming from a country that was evaluating personal leadership, and then visiting a country such as in our house, it could be you, where everything is done together. All people act together. There is no one person that is leading person. And I heard an anthropology story about a person who visited a tribe of people where everybody was pretty much treated the same. And if you were hunting for a big animal that could provide for the whole people, there would actually be rituals, or people would act like not rituals, but people would actually have an ethical code of making sure you don't think too highly of yourself. I also think about cultures like more Western American cultures rather than versus Nordic countries. For example, when I'm half Israeli, half Dutch, and when I was in Amsterdam, I was traveling the train, black of course, because I was in between homes, and there was not possibility to travel otherwise. I was not doing like trying to trick the system or something. And with me there were two Finnish girls, and they were like, we were discussing career, and in Finland, if you do something that is your own, that's your own thing, then you're not being scorned for that, but people look at you as though you think too highly of yourself. You think you're special. You think you're better than anyone, better than the others. and I'm coming from a startup nation. And so, from my perspective, I could validate the voice that says, no, my doing my own thing is not thinking that I'm better than anyone. It's just an expression of my unique voice as an individual. And I happen to have Leo in my sixth house of the service I give to people, and this is in my work. Again, and pets, of course. And so I had to come into terms. I have the sun square in my Leo house, I have the sun in Taurus, with my desire to be the star of the show in my workplace, which can be accommodated for in certain fields, even like being a doggy sitter. Okay, because I'm the leader of the pack. If I'm working with dogs, I'm the leader of the pack. Okay, it requires certain behavior, certain responsibilities, so the dogs will respect me, but also wherever I go to the bathroom, they come with me. I go to my bed, they come with me. Whatever I do, they do with me. Okay, and it's not easy to accept for a sun in Earth sign, definitely not a sun in Taurus, where it's like I just relax. I'm just, sensual pleasure is much more important than, to have somebody, like the only reason that you would want somebody to kiss your feet is because it's pleasure to feel the touch of their tongue on your toes, rather than the situation where they're humiliating themselves in the face of your mighty or like whatever. That's absolutely not a natal sun thing to me. um we're being very sensual with Venus in Pisces here. Yeah. So, the person who is the sun, or the representation of the sun, when it comes to Aquarius, where everybody is equal and you don't have your own unique shine, okay, and this is also the shadow of Aquarius, okay, because Aquarius is contrarian to society. It's the decentralizer. Even when you look at it from Saturn's point of view, it's the structure outside of the structure. Okay? And I'm referring back to the old days of the cast when there were, the original tree. And I don't remember. I did think it was Austin Kopak that when I learned about, their division, the houses, and all the things, then back 2 years probably. Then the analogy he gave for how to tell Saturn in Capricorn and Saturn in Aquarius was Saturn in Capricorn is I'm locked in, Saturn in Aquarius is I'm locked out. And I think that to be a fantastic analogy. Sun in itself is the ruler. It's the leader. It's the natural. It's the sign. It's the planet ruling kings. Okay. Saturn, as in Aquarius, or the domain of Aquarius, is the common people. So think about, if you think about Pluto reaching the position of the French Revolution, Pluto in Aquarius, think about the people who owned land. Yes, back then the peasants were the people who owned land. Now nobody, like hardly anybody owns land. And so the people who were agrarian, who owned land and had to rely on their crops, that was the difficulty that later made industrialization. The people who had to rely on their crops. So think about the king of France or the queen of France or princess of, or like the queen, I think she was, coming to visit these peasants. Okay, this is the sun in Aquarius. How comfortable would she feel after she landed and was greeted by the people that she's leading? Okay, this is also the test of the sun, because you are leading something when the sun was in Leo. In the new moon, whichever house it is for you, you are leading something. And now you're coming to meet this combination for that. Think about maybe you're starting a company. Okay, you'll be the CEO or the founder of the company. And now the biannual checkup, and you go to see if your employees are actually satisfied. And how are your employees performing? And you're expected with the sun to be treated well. You're the leader. Everyone should respect you. But what's actually happening is that they are the leaders, and you're expected. Saturn is the teacher. So you think you're coming to check up to see how they're doing. But if you're a good CEO, you're coming to learn from them how to do the job. So this is the ability of how do you get your shine within the people when they will not appreciate you. They come to teach you. They are shining now. The people, the marginalized society, and you're the student. You're not the leader. You're not the performer. You're not the actor. Okay. You know what I think about when is this a good combination? Think about you're an actor or an actress, and you're supposed to play, a member of the anarchist society. And now you read the script, you read about people, but only now you visit the set, or the place that the set was inspired by, and you get to actually meet these people. Or you made a movie, perhaps you filmed a movie, and now this movie launched, and now you're greeted by the reaction of the people that you portrayed. And then you have to say, like, do they think it was cultural appropriation or ableism that you portrayed them? They might. I think about a fascinating streak where I think Beyonce, yeah, of course, Beyonce was doing her the Lion King music, like musical album. Then she came up with a lot of the things that to her were her ancestors, and she spent so much time and dedication learning about these ancestors and this and that and the clothes and every detail, right? With a good Virgo. And when the album was out, she was actually greeted with claims for cultural appropriation, for not having visited or not touring enough in Africa, for representing only very narrow segments of tribes and not the entirety of Africa, or for falling into stereotypes of colored clothes and dancing drums, and not actually representing Africa. So people were expecting not the glorious Beyonce queen with many servants dressed in beautiful black colors. I genuinely said black colors about the colored clothes, like the bright colored clothes that African people or African fashion is so famous by. I find it very interesting because I just said black colors, referring to the most like streak colored streak I think it's called. They're actually like the in your face colors that African culture is so of African fashion is so known by, at least stereotypically. So I just found it interesting that I call it black colors. Like as in black culture, right? The black fashion. So so she was greeted with actually a lot of criticism. She came as this glorious sun shining, presenting Africa and her connection to Africa and the Lion King. And the people were like, darling, have you been in Africa? Why you represented this? Why represent that? I'm not judging any of the sides of that, okay? Like, I surely don't think that Beyonce made to culturally appropriate the culture that she's coming from. Like, I understand the intricacy of the situation, but also just understand the people that said, well, you make so much money out of Africa, and yes, you're African in your descendants, but you haven't toured in Africa. How much of this wealth does come to Africa? Maybe it does through other ways that we don't know. But like, won't you come and tour in Africa? And so on. Or won't you represent the diversity of cultures and so on and so forth? So this can be a similar situation. Somebody is thinking that they're representing not necessarily the voice although it can be with this Uranus in Venus sign and Venus in Pisces, the creative, the oneness, being in tension with the places that's supposed to resolve the tension of the T square here, the Uranus Moon Sun T square to begin with. So this is just a very interesting situation. And you have to think about who is the sun and where are you the sun, because you got to hold yourself accountable. You're the sun in the circumstances in somebody's chart. I start to try and self-reflect on the places, where have I been doing that? Because this is my 6th house. Okay? Were there places that I was doing that? And like how do I learn and grow? Like who are the people that I need to learn and grow? This is 12th house. Okay? So you're the sun in somebody's chart. But also you're the Saturn in somebody else's chart. Okay? For example, I'll give my example. The 6th house is the house of physical health. It's the house of pets. It's the house of the service you give to people. It's also the house of work. Okay? This is where I have been the sun here. I've started something and maybe launched it, and I have to think, what was it? And then I come to my 12th house, and the sun is shining there, and it's like, well, you started this thing in August, and now it is blooming. That being said, these are the things you still need to learn. These are the things you still need to learn about work. These are just the things you still need to learn about, dealing with your pets or growing your pets. But I don't currently have one of my own, so it's like really interesting. Or maybe the pets of the neighborhood, because I have the sun in the 3rd house, and I did have like cats starting to come up. So perhaps there are things that I would need to know about these things, or maybe like something I wasn't aware of. I hope a cat will not decide to just drop her babies in my like room or something, because I don't have the ability financially to support that. So there is just all these things coming. And now it's like the sun is going to be in my 12th house. So there is some place where I am the Saturn, and there is somebody who started something in August, and now they're coming to the domain of my 12th house. It could be mental health, and I know I've been very vocal about this issue. And they could be mental health, that can be hospitality or hotels or hotel structures or something like that. I don't know. And or they could be faraway land. They want to teach me about something, and I tell them, well, this is what actually the structure, like this is what the people are actually like here, which can be the case. Or at the same time, there is a place where I am the sun. Okay, and I come to the place of my 12th house, and I have a teaching. Like I'm wishing, like I'm expecting to be appreciated, and people are like, well, there's all that and that and that and that and that you didn't accommodate for, which can also be mental health, right? It could also be physical health, or maybe I started something to do with the physical health. Mental health community like, well, for me it actually works this way. No, for me it actually works that way. No, that like is not the way it happened for me. And then just like I would have to learn, I would have to adjust, I would have to understand that this is not the moment where I'm shining as I usually am, but this is the moment where if you think about getting ready for a role, then this is the moment where you're like, you're getting educated. Like I say, it's the best combination is where you're working to play a role in the movie, and you got the role, now you're doing the rehearsals, and now to do the rehearsals you meet the actual people who are that, you know, the role that you're going to play in the movie. And then those people teach you what's actually going on. Okay, for example, if I talk about addiction, when I met the person um, who was dealing with addiction, I witnessed how strong they were and how the unsupportive the environment was. Okay, but then I can say that here on YouTube, and then, you know, maybe in the full moon day I get a message from them, and they're like, "Oh, I heard you say this, I heard you say that." You know that that's not exactly true, but there were these people that helped me, and these people. And actually, in retrospective, I think that when I made this decision, it took a bit of time for me to be to stick to that decision. Once I did, everything was gathering, you know, like, but this is not what I saw. So you're making decisions like, you know, and I would have to reiterate my narrative from this person. I would have to see, okay, maybe I'm expressing, because I have the sun in my third house, vlogging, maybe I'm expressing that voice, but there's something that they didn't see. Okay, and they can teach me. They can say, well, you've not been correct in this. You haven't seen the full picture. Okay, this is another voice. This is another thing that's happening. Things have changed now. Now in retrospective, because Saturn rules time, I can say this so and so and so. So you understand that you are playing both the Saturn role in someone's chart, okay, and the Sun role in someone's chart. For somebody, you are the Sun person. You gotta go to your own chart. What area of life does it rule for you? Okay. But before I go through the houses, just keep that in mind. Just when I talked about Mercury turning direct and Mercury and Aldebaran, I said it's not that you win over someone. It's like you are the Mars in Aldebaran in someone's chart, and somebody is the Mars in Aldebaran in your chart. Okay? So you need to look at this is happening. You may experience a loss in a certain field in your life. And you know, indeed, for me, I was at home and I had the most beautiful argument. It is a conversation that I managed to bring a point across that I didn't think one of my family members would agree on. That was tremendously huge. And they were like, I know exactly what you're talking about. You're right. Now I understand. Like the most Mars in Aldebaran thing ever. On the other hand, the moon was right on my midheaven, which is the best time to broadcast a video that's feasible, that is going to go viral, it's going to have a lot of views. I was not having that, okay? The center of my attention was at my home, in which I had the tremendous victorious moment. Not the victorious over someone, but it's just a victorious, okay, I won something that was essential to my well-being. Okay. And at the other hand, not only was I not uploading videos, I was not even taking my phone with me. So that chance to make a video that is, that month, the chance to make the video that is going to be known or is going to have more views or is going to represent me in my career, that chance was not taken. Mars is also choosing between two things. This battle was one which was more essential to my well-being than to have a video out there and people admiring me or liking me or enjoying my teachings or something like that. So there, like I was the Mars in another person. And then career, maybe perhaps at that time somebody else got the time to shine that they wouldn't have the time to shine had I posted a video. Okay, I didn't even know this, right? I didn't even know this. Funnily enough, like a couple of days later, Lada came with a beautiful post about Antares that was exposing me to something that I didn't know, is that having something within 5 and 15 degrees in Sagittarius, you may experience animosity for no reason. And I have it in, like, I have Keto in 12 degrees Sagittarius. So that's something I had to contend with in my career. People would hate you for no reason, because they're jealous of you. And I found it very difficult to process. I was born and raised not to think too highly of myself, and also not to discredit or disvalue myself. Okay, I was born and raised in a very particular manner. Like, the sun is not shining from my behind, as well as nobody's sun shines from their behind. Which I find very, resilient contribution to resilience, but it also made it very difficult for me to understand that people could be jealous of me for something. And so, that contribution was made by a colleague of mine, that is like, not only that the fact that I won here and not was going to my career was good for me, but there was also a colleague making a point around this house that was not active in me, that is the 10th house, that was so much contribution to me and to understanding for the things that I had to deal with and how to deal with them, boy, was that worth it, right? Boy, was that worth it, to concentrate on my home and get the point across in an effective and not, demoralizing way, while not like giving up my shine time and have somebody that knows how to do it better to do it, because hey, they knew something about Antares that I didn't know. Don't they deserve to get the views in Sagittarius now? Absolutely they do, right? So for them, the Aldebaran could have been another place. So yeah. Other things to say about this. So I talked about the T-square in my February forecast, and we're talking about Sun moon opposition, which is full moon, and then having the square to Uranus. This creates a T-square. Uranus in Venus sign. Now there's two things. T-square is resolved, like if I want to see there's tension, there's tremendous tension building up. It wants to be resolved, it's resolved in the sign oppositioning the point of the T-square. So oppositioning Uranus here, and this is where the Keto is. Not exactly, but in Scorpio. What is Scorpio ruled by? Mars. Where's Mars? In Gemini. What is Mars in Gemini doing? Deciding there are two options. We are going for this option. But this is in tension with the ruler of Uranus. Okay, Mars decides on something, but there's tension between Venus and Pisces. What's Venus in Pisces? The sense of oneness, merging social, spiritual quests, daydreams, mediumship, artistic word, that which is beyond word, abstract art, and so on and so forth. Okay, the concept of value is liquid. When I talked about earlier, today I talked about the Venus wisdom on a Venus day, and a lot of Venus in Pisces emerged and blended into another. The topic seemed unrelated, but they were so related. This is the nature of Venus in Pisces, okay? Bringing things together, Venus, that are of contradictory forces. The sign of Pisces, the two fishes, and you have the two fishes actually swimming in different directions. The fishes each are going in different direction. You don't see it in this symbol. And that is the bringing together, or the making natural that which is impossible in our known reality. Okay? So again, without understanding the nature of the archetypes that I'm talking about, you can listen to this video and say, well, this is very unorganized, and like it sounds like somebody turned on like the ocean and made it swim in words. And like, yes, that's what Venus in Pisces sounds like. So this is how my Venus wisdom on a Venus day is gonna sound like. Mars in Gemini is deciding something, and that creates tension with the artistic aspects of something. Okay, then that can be something played out within you. You make a decision, and there is a bit of tension between the decision that you make and or you decide maybe have two investments. You decide to give money to this investment. The other investment was in arts, and that's a bit, like Venus is unhappy, and Venus is sextiled, or is applying to sextile Uranus. So the ruler of Uranus in Pisces is in tension with the planet that's supposed to resolve the tension of the T-square. So we have unresolved or seemingly unresolvable tension, and the ball goes back to Venus being supported by Uranus. Now, I'll tell you what it reminds me by a nice short that I saw on YouTube. And the nice short that I saw on YouTube was of an Arab couple, Muslim, and the man was saying how Arab men treats women. This is how it goes. It takes a bell, it rings the bell, the wife comes, he says, is the house clean? Is everything, is the house clean? Is everything in order? Is those are okay? He says, yes, yes, yes. And he goes, well, did I do a good job then? And she's like, yes. And everybody who did not watch till the end was playing into the stereotype of Arab men being, oppressing of women and so on and so forth. And the funny ending, the twist things around is like, well, actually he's not calling for his Arab servant wife, but actually he's the servant calling for his boss wife to make sure that he did everything correctly. And this is a lot of this is humor that I've heard a lot in the Middle East. And that notion of Mars is supposed to solve the problem, okay? But he's going to have to adhere back to Uranus that created it. Whoopsie. Leo, full moons, Leo. Dankjewel. And why did I give this analogy? Because Mars here is supposed to be the boss of the situation, okay? By structure. The tension is solved in Scorpio seemingly, but Scorpio is A with Ketu, which is what we're releasing. And the ruler, Mars, is in tension with Venus, the ruler of that which created the problem, the T-square, which is with Rahu, sextiling it. So this seems to me, Uranus is rebellious. Somebody created a problem for a Mars to resolve. Whichever solution Mars has, he has to pick between two options. Whatever he does is going to aggravate Venus, who played along all the while with Uranus to make sure that whatever Mars does, Uranus takes the crown. Okay? It's a play here. Squaring the full moon. And now we're made to see this. This play is not necessarily Machiavellian, okay? It's also the type of play, and this is why I go to this example of the Arab couple, okay? It played on the stereotype of what we think about Arab men, or what we think the relationship between Muslim men and women are in marriage. It played right into this stereotype until the end, where you get that, hey, like the husband is the servant. And Mars in Gemini operates in Gemini is a trickster sign, okay? So this is what a man is required to do. It's like the setting was set for you to ring that bell and say, come, 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 women. Okay? Say, come. Say, is the house clean? Is everything clean? Is everything this? Is everything that? Yeah. But if you're a smart man, which you're gonna need to dig a bit into the wisdom of those type of men to get it. If you're a smart man, you understand you can play all that. But at the end of the day, you better well ask, did I do the good job? Okay? You better well be the person who cleaned up the entire place if you're asking how it is. And so there is this desire, like Mars in Gemini having to be this decisive person has to say, whatever you decide, darling. There's this a bit sexist joke about man-women relationship. This is Mars-Venus, okay? Man-women relationship. And the joke goes, I'm the man, which what this video played out, it's like, I am the man, I am the person who says the last word in our house, in our household. And then the continuation of that is, yes, darling. Okay? Yes, my darling wife. And this is what Mars is being asked to do here. Mars has two options. You can play that misogynist, whatnot, role in your life. But at the end of the day, you better bet that you make sure that in the tension between you and that which is Venus, like Venus gets her way. And this is not a bad thing here. Okay? It's actually something that has the power to restore peace in the face of a certain revolution. And Mars's job is to pick an option. Okay, Mars has to frame Venus correctly to win this game. The only way for Mars to win this game, Mars is not on the Baron anymore, is to frame Venus in Pisces in such a way that she's being honored. And that is going counter to the stereotype of the Venusian. Okay? And again, you need to remember, you are somebody's Mars, you're the Mars in somebody's chart. Doesn't matter your gender. As well as, so you're the Venus in somebody else's chart. So you have a Pisces house and you have a Gemini house. Okay. Mars is coming to your Gemini house, Venus is coming to your Pisces house. So somebody's being Venusian with your Pisces house. That can be you, that can be somebody else. Somebody can be Martian in your Gemini house. That can be you, it can be somebody else. Okay. Somebody has to resolve a tension so that the last word is, yes, my darling wife. Okay, yes, my darling woman. Yes, my darling sister. Okay, I said the last word. Yes, my darling sister. Okay? And there's a sense of humor about the way Mars operates in Gemini. Gemini is humor. Okay, Mercury is also our sense of humor, which is often reliant on the word play, the play on analogies. Okay. And Mars has to pick the right humor that accentuate the divineness of Venus. Okay. If he does that, and he will do that, like by Rahu is with Uranus. Okay. If he does that correctly, he's been relieved. He solved this tension. Okay. And Mars trines the Sun here. So it can be, again, it can be a play between the sides of your person. Okay, your Martian person come to the help of your solar person and brings humor into the situation that paints the Venusian person that revolted, that rebelled. When it has something to say that is not in alignment with what you're teaching, you're in a square sun, or with what you're preaching, or with what you're performing. And you have to bring humor to the situation. You can get to laugh at yourself. If you get to laugh at yourself, you get like everybody wins. Okay, this is a situation where everybody wins. Venus is the win-win sign. Okay, oneness. So there's intricacy about the things that you are being called to do. And that could be a scene where there are a couple of players, and then there is this Mars person coming to protect you and sparking up a joke that saves your behinds, and and or Mars is saying a joke that you will need to explain logically to some creative Venusian figure that she understands that he got it wrong and you're protecting him, but she's being honored in that protection. And you try to play that as though, and then that person comes to their senses, and we're proceeding on with Uranus and Rahu. Because Rahu is where we're heading. Okay, we're leaving the scorpionic stuff. Things that can happen. Sexist jokes. Okay. Sparking up a sexist joke as attempt to release the tension, and then being self-aware about it. It's like, oh, I was actually trying to resolve the tension. If you take accountability, if you choose the right frame, like take accountability and say, oh, I was trying to impress you with sexism, and now I see how ridiculous that is, and you're being like a woman, or you're a gender fluid person. I was trying to tell jokes that rely on binary division, and I can see how that's ridiculous. Okay, if you can put yourself to ridicule, you can. The sun is trining this Mars and Gemini. Mars and Gemini can't put themselves to ridicule. So you can actually do good. And you say, well, I understand how that's, I understand the humor of what I've been trying to do and how ironic the situation is. That's a way to win. And you win the respect by honoring the respect of another. But this is something that's not so easy to do because there is conflict. Venus in Pisces is very ethereal, it's very energetic. Mars in Gemini is very direct words and rude humor sometimes. Okay, it can be intelligent humor, but kind of rude, kind of. Mars is sharp, it's direct. Okay, or alternatively, if the Mars, is the ruler of Scorpio, the Mars comes with an underlying notion. You really try to, maneuver a Piscean Venus who is attuned to her energy. Like you're really trying to do, like you're trying to gaslight a Pisces. Did you really? I'm the ocean. You're a freaking water puddle. It's like that, but Venus won't say it. She would make him feel this way, which is another, tragedy of the water signs. They tend to make the other person feel the way they feel, and they do get to feel crappy as well. So when Mars in Gemini tries to act with humor, but the motivations, as the ruler of Aries, it tries to start something new and be acknowledged as unique. And first at something at Scorpio, he has hidden motives, okay, or he has good motives, have superior motives, but he's acting in inferior ways. He thinks that the way to get his goal is to speak in a certain way that's actually not supportive of his objectives in this scenario. So the tensions. The point of tension here is Uranus. The history of this is Uranus and Saturn still square by sign, not by aspect. If I go back to the Saturn square Uranus, it's to grow up and rebel. And Uranus takes this one. Uranus is with Rahu. He takes this battle. It's important for us to understand. Okay, we don't want to lose the baby with the cradle. But Uranus and Taurus takes this battle. In this tension, where we are heading is the sign where Uranus is at. And therefore, the planet ruling Uranus, they also take this battle. And you need to understand, there's some places for you that are outdated. And if I take, Mars for me is in the 9th house, natally. And it's a Mars in Scorpio. And I understand that some perhaps deeply psychological motives for actions or means of actions are now fortunately no longer needed. They can be more simple stuff. Okay, so if I would look to find my equality, let's say, I don't know, within men, by studying the inner psychology of myself and others, then it's like, well, that's good, that's great, but now what's actually needed is for you to self-pleasure yourself more. What's actually needed is for you to cook food you actually enjoy to eat and not what you think is just healthy for you on a survivalistic way. What's actually needed for you is to make money, like the paper, right? And or what's actually needed for you is to tend to your neighbors rather than, to people abroad as well. Okay, like tend to your neighbors, tend to your daily routine. Okay, it's much more important for you to walk around your neighborhood than to travel to another country right now. Okay, in 9 years it will be the other way around. So wherever Taurus is for you, even though the T-square is solved in Scorpio, the ruler will have to abide by Uranus. Somebody is revolting in your Taurus house. That could be you, that could be another person. And again, you're somebody's Uranus, somebody's your Uranus. Okay, so you might be understanding the merit of doing Uranus and Taurus right now. And, on the other hand, you might be releasing the ways in which your Scorpio house is operating or has been operating. Okay? Or it might be getting to the nitty-gritty of how your Scorpio house is operating, releasing that and moving on, because the full moon is also about releasing, and moving on to do things to tend more to your Taurus house. What are you releasing? Okay, so you're not only releasing things with your Leo, you're releasing stuff along the entire fixed axis, but also the mutable. Anything more particular, delving into this new moon. So Neptune is not doing very much. Mercury is already applying to conjunct Pluto, sextiling Neptune. more messages around the judges. Oh, oh, this is interesting. In my previous video, I talked about I'm half Israeli, half Dutch. I'm currently residing in Israel, and we have this thing where there are problems with the juristic system in general, and at the same time, there was a parliament member that was elected to be a government member that had a dispute with the IRS, and he arranged that dispute according to what he said. And then the juristic system said, no, he's not, he's allowed to be a member of the parliament, but he's not allowed to go into the government because he had so and so offenses against the IRS, which is an intricate issue in itself. But then the government said, well, you, juristic system, will not interfere in the election of the people to who will be in the government. Okay, it's a democratically elected government. The people chose for him to be a member, that knowing that he is running to be a part of the government. He was not running for the opposition, he was running for the government. And so he was elected with the elected party, and they made a government. And so they wanted to have a rule that can overcome the decision of the Supreme Court. Now, the problem for this solution is that you have a rule, you create a structural, long-term, legally binding first case or case study to rely on for any government to overcome any decision of the Supreme Court. Now, there are problems with the Supreme Court, and then there are problems with the government, and then there is a problem with the desire to alter the checks and balances between the government, the enforcement, and the juristic system. Okay, the three pillars of democracy. So this is structural changes, and we constantly hear that on the news, and people are demonstrating. These demonstrations are actually covered, unlike other demonstrations that were globally, not just in Israel. But more news about that. So Mercury is both traders, lawyers, and also children. And I do expect messages around children, the abuse of children, with a conjunction. There's always the caution that one needs to take, since children can be abused under this, under this condition. This can be the beginning of the cycle, but it's also, Mercury is the releasing of news of something that was hidden. Going back to the structure. Okay? So trade, rules around trade, rules around the juristic system, or juristic changes of the structure of the juristic system. This is literally what happens in Israel. What is being demonstrated against. I think eventually they didn't get that person to be in the government, or he was fired from the government, and like, I don't know, what's like so many things. But that can be on a global level. Okay, changes in juristic awareness about the hidden aspects of the juristic system, protocols. Okay, exposure of the protocols of something that can create a lot of stress and trauma and drama around people. Okay, distrust in the system. Okay, and Mercury is the news. They can be also, although Pluto is not in Gemini, the play of Pluto, Mercury is also the media and hidden media, censorship, so on and so forth. So attempts to censorize, or exposure of censorships, or discussion over censorships, and so on and so forth. That's in the background. And this one takes two cycles. One is the cycle of, hey, the new moon in August, what was there in the news, and so what wasn't in the news and is in the news now, or what was in the news and isn't in the news now. Okay, there is collective memory and there is collective forgetting. So we have to tend to both. And the other cycle is the Mercury Pluto cycle. So now it's applying to the conjunction. So we're closing in since the last time that Mercury had conjuncted Pluto. Okay, so let's go back to that. You can do that manually. This is AstroSeek. You can do that on astroseek.com. You can just research Pluto Mercury conjunction in Capricorn and you'll get that. And as we understand that cycle, we understand that this cycle is also culminating because Mercury is applying to conjunct Pluto again to start a new cycle. So something on the news, something to do with children, with structure, with lawyers, with juristic systems, with the structure of, it can even be the welfare because Mercury is children, agreements, youth, whatnot, the trade, media, censorship of media, and so on and so forth. There's a cycle completing here. Something is hidden that wasn't hidden before. Something is visible that wasn't visible before. And then it's the starting of a new cycle. Okay, with the conjunction, it's a hard aspect. There's a tension created here. There's a spark. I think I would call it like a cardinal aspect because it starts to spark something that's going to cycle for the rest of the cycle. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like many people called it that way, and I wasn't aware of that. Or I just invented that. I don't know. So it's my not giving credit. It's not because I discredit someone. It's because I just don't know if other people said that. So yeah. So I don't know who to credit. But you can write in the comments below if somebody else said that, and I can comment them and I can watch the videos and so on. I'd like to know. Well, Jupiter, who is also ruling Pisces and ruling this Venus, is in Aries, not making anything much. A little bit of trine by sign to the moon, separate, like the moon is separating from a trine by sign to Jupiter. In Aries, where the sun exalts. Okay, sense of optimism in the air. I don't know if it's just or not. Well, we can't talk about anything in Leo without mentioning Lilith in Leo. And she's not making any aspects at the time of this full moon. That being said, she is in the sign ruled by the sun. There's a major player in the scene. And Lilith is the bodily instinct, the raw instinct, the wisdom of the body or the intelligence of the body. Basic instinct, think about Sharon Stone, basic instincts, Lilith. And it's the type of wisdom that, if the sun is the wisdom of the heart, is wearing your heart on your sleeve, is seeing other people, okay, which can also be projecting because the sun emits light, and so you're seeing the heart of other people can be projecting, and that can be the naivety of Leo. Okay, they can see the goodness in everyone, although they are intelligent and self-aware. But they can project their own light on others, and so see others in the light that they see themselves, which is very interesting because the sun is the center of the universe and expect to be worshipped, but they also do know how to worship. Okay, romantically, for example, they are very they're like, if you expect a bed of roses and somebody to peel off the stingy thingy from the roses, that's probably a Leo lover that you're seeking. So they do know how to worship, and they expect worship for the way that they're being worshipped, and they just project that on people. Um, yeah, well, for me, it's the sixth house, so I have to think about how am I like this in work or with pets. Not romantic, naturally, but the sense of worshiping and being worshipped. Okay, or how I like the way pets worship me, and I can worship the pet as well, or like, or taking the leader of the pack, or something like that. Um, but there is this notion that the person that does not know how to take, like, how to submit to an authority cannot have an authority position. It's very much the wisdom of the Sun Saturn axis here. Um, Lilith has a basic instinct. Lilith is another point of view. Um, and I think of the scene of Sharon Stone with Basic Instinct that I was later told was a sexual harassment or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I'm not sure if that was the case, or actually if that was her initiation and she was owning it. And it's funny that I don't remember. It's funny that I don't remember. Because Lilith in Leo has a different point of view. And Lilith, of course, is the raw instinct, and she wants to shine. In Leo, the motivation is to shine. Um, Leo is wearing your heart on your sleeve. Lilith is not as easily defined. Um, Lilith definitely advocates in favor of enjoying sexuality. Um, she definitely advocates from with Leo is the sexuality that comes from the heart. Okay, if you don't put your heart into it, I don't want it. And that's very little. It's like, well, for my sensual pleasure, or sorry, for the satisfaction of my raw basic instinct, it has to be heart connected. And I need to be admired, I need to be worshipped, and you need to be head over heels in love with me, so that we can explore eroticism or kink or whatnot. That being said, the way sexuality looks with Lilith is her way. Okay, so for example, if you look at this connects also to this full moon thing, because there's this dynamic between people also sexually that can be unexpected. And Leo is about rulership and kingdom, so being the king or the queen, and that can take on a kinky setting. Well, Lilith in Leo, I think anybody who says the word stopping from the bottom should be taking into account that Lilith in Leo exists. Okay? She definitely wants to be the queen even when she is on her knees. And that's something you need to take into account. Because if you think she's stopping from the bottom, you're not going to have a bottom. Okay? When she's doing that. And this where it goes to communication. Communication is with Mercury applying to conjunct Pluto. Okay, and by saying that, I do not discredit the existence of people who do abuse DOMs, okay, or gaslight DOMs. That is what stopping from the bottoms originally refers to. That's not the case. It's just an understanding that the fact that somebody might want to be worshipped as a queen when she's playing a submissive role or he's playing a submissive role is also a valid form of kink, especially I feel like Evie Lupin right now, which I absolutely am not anywhere near her degree of knowledge in BDSM, and owe a lot of my knowledge to her, so credits where credits due. But these are actually the conversations we're going to be having with Lilith in Leo. Okay? what you think or what your social construct tells you, or it's like you're thinking you're the dom in the situation, so everybody should submit to you, and you're being worshipped, and the other person, there's an element of humiliation within your king, your partner might not view it the same. Your partner might view it as she is the queen that is getting down on her knees to be a servant of the people, and you are the people. Okay, which is literally the kinky scene that's being portrayed in this transit. And if you don't worship her like a king, like a queen, then you are topping from the bottom. Okay, then you are, and so communication is needed at every step. It's a very practical communication, it's very power-informed communication, and with Uranus at play, it's going to play right on this tension between the stereotype men and women, Mars and Venus. Okay, Mars is also in a Yang sign, and Venus is in a Yin sign. Okay, Mars is absolutely not exalted in Gemini or anything like that, but he's way too fast. And we're acting way too fast, way too quick, and Venus is the most ethereal form of elusive and mysterious femininity. Okay, and then of course, if you are rebelling this notion of masculinity and femininity, I'm more than delighted to learn from you what would be your perception of that. Because I have become aware that even though I'm gender fluid, the worldview and the concepts that I've been using are derived from traditional Chinese medicine, from Tantra, I mean, the Indian Tantra, not like Aleister Crowley. Nothing against him, it's just, the like other types of stuff. And the Tantra that deals with the sensuality, joy of the senses, and immersing yourself, absorbing the joy of the senses, so not to develop hunger and addiction. So it's not just sex. And I understand, or shamanism, and I understand how these ancient notions bore a binary category that has pros and cons, and so my language is in a way limited or dogmatically constructed to use this particular binary like binary stuff, when I myself am what people modernly would call non-binary gender. Okay, what I call I'm both a man and a woman. Lilith in Leo other than sexuality. Well, you need to understand, Lilith in Leo is about the heart. Okay? Lilith in Leo will spot it right on. Like, you could not hide in the face of King from Lilith in Leo in this configuration. Because if you say, well, my kink is such that I do kinky scenes with people I'm not in a relationship with, but I make love deeply and passionately in a vanilla form, another questionable word, with my committed partner only. Lilith in Lilith will say that you have how do you call it, a horror, like that you have a Madonna horror problem with your thingy there, does not make you a kinky person. Okay, so that, like, Lilith in Lilith is like, you're not connected to me with your heart, and you want me to get on my knees, or you want you to get on my knees and me to appreciate you when you wouldn't be doing that with your wife because you're doing only vanilla with your wife because. What's the problem here? Like, I'm not gonna no. Okay, and that's something important. The heart is important. The heart is a part of the kink. For as long as Lilith is in Leo, the heart is a part of the kink, and this is not playing with the hearts of people. Okay, Lilith has her. For example, when Lilith was in Cancer, I realized the value of a hug. Like, being hugged took over any of the orgasms offered on the plate. And, unlike when Lilith was in Taurus, for example, okay? Lilith in Leo wants to be admired, wants to be appreciated. Um, and what I get from this thing is that the whole construct of Uranus being in Venus sign, Venus in Pisces, this full moon, the opposition, the sun being in its detriment sign, um, there are like on a sexual level, people are going to have to rethink how much of their kink was just misogyny in disguise and how much of it is genuine kink. And sometimes the testing for that is like, oh, you say you only control people, and you're not a switch. But if you can't take authority, how can you be an authority? How can I submit to you if you've never submitted to anyone? Okay? And I'm saying that as the perspective of Lilith. I'm not saying that this is the absolute truth. Okay? Um, there are going to be a lot of delving into the authenticity of the heart in your raw sexuality. Okay? It doesn't necessarily have to be around kink or issues of power per se. It can be about the raw instinct, it can be about gender roles in bed or in romantic relationships in general, courtship. Okay, there is, I think about the Renaissance, Summer Renaissance, which is a beautiful song by Beyonce. The funny thing that, you know, when you go to YouTube and you say Summer Renaissance by Beyonce, then you get the footage of her saying Balenciaga before the Balenciaga scandal. And I think this was totally paramount with discussion and diversification and all the things that only make her more famous. Um, so that was just funny. But there is like the way the song begins, like I want to house you, make you say my name or something like that. I'm going to spouse you and make you touch your ring, and you know, and they say I'm going to trust you even though I only met you. So that's a lot of at least the two lines, like thinking about the stereotype of the woman saying, I want you to take my name. Okay? And that being a raw sexual desire. This is very much, okay, it was not written maybe it was written, like, no, I don't think so, during a Lilith in Leo, but Lilith in Leo very much captures the spirit of these lines. Because the Sun in Leo, she wants commitment. Okay, she wants a traditional marriage. Absolutely. Might want it to look different, but she wants to be valued in the way of the kings and the queens. She wants to be made the queen, and she wants to be made the queen and wear a ring, okay? Saturn. The way the ring looks like has to be royal. Okay, now you have to find where Saturn is and where the Sun is in the person's chart and so on and so forth. But if it's the seventh and first house, there is some form of commitment that's very formal, that's very royal, that has to be done there. Okay, that's a sort of conflict in the couple as well. It's like she wants a ring, but that ring has to be unconventional. Okay, or she wants a commitment in a royal way, but she doesn't want to be wearing a ring. Okay, the ring or the absence of the ring. Saturn rules rings. The Sun rules royalty and also being seen. Okay, by everyone. Or she wants to be married, but to keep her own name. So I want to make you take my name, and that is very much also a Lilith raw instinct. Because this comes, especially with this song, is a very good example. It comes from the rawness of the sexuality. It's a sexual fun. She sees a man, she doesn't even know him, and then she gets the heart, and she says, I want to spouse you. I want to make you take my name. I want to dominate you, so it's the best way, I don't know, to reach you or something like that. So it's coming like the marital fantasy where the man takes the fantasy, the name of the woman is rawness erotic. Okay, that pretty much corresponds with the intricate way Lilith operates within the realm of the royals. She wants to be the star of the show. Okay. Lilith is considered to represent that which is a woman, And I think to say that which is a woman is actually a smart decision, because there are women with penis, um, and and that, like, women, whatever they have between their legs is probably going to be Lilith. Um, so the woman wants to shine the way that the glory would be given to men. Okay, if you think about like previous Beyonce, there's actually good reason to delve into her chart from many phases. But if you think about the Beyonce example that she had previous, I think I don't know if it was a tour or something. She calls herself King Beyonce, okay, not Queen Beyonce, but King Beyonce. When I think about Lilith in Leo, she wants to be called king. She wants to be called king. She wants to be treated like the king is treated. But she may have kinks that are non-conventional. If you think about it, if you think about kinks and you think about dominant, submissive, or something like that, then there are a lot of people who outside, they're the CEO, they're the this, they're the that. If you're trying to imply me, that's the wrong kink, and I'm not saying to delude you, it's just, speaking the truth. Like the ruler of my 7th in my 2nd in Aries, that don't expect me, and the ruler of my 12th in my 10th, do not expect me to not be direct about what I actually desire. But if you think about, a CEO or something like that, it's very not control, like making decisions, so and so and so. And then in the bedroom, they actually like to be dominated by dominatrix. So Lilith in Leo can be a woman playing the role of that man. But you better bet she's not gonna take her being mistreated, even in the kinkiest of kinks. Okay? So there's something very delicate and very intricate about the role that she comes to play here. It's very exciting, actually. And then because because we talk about concepts of gender that are themselves indoctrinated, don't expect this to be men and women. And don't accept this to be feminine and masculine. Okay, it's just like Lilith in Leo. Okay, Lilith wants to be treated like a king, okay, like a royal, even when she's on the knees. If she's on the knees, she sees that it's the service, like the way that the leader is a servant to the people. Okay, she's still on top of you, and this is why the notion of people who think about topping from the bottom, they really need to think very, very deeply and very, very thoroughly. Are they accommodating for situations where the person who is being submissive is actually the leader? Okay, and that play, I began opening with this short about how Arab men treat women, and the man, ringing the bell, and the woman comes and he asks, is everything okay? This okay? And it's like, did I do a good job? Understanding that he is the servant. He's serving her. He's the one who did the cleaning. He doesn't ask how she cleaned. He's the one who cleaned around the house. It's like what you're seeing outside, what you're expecting. You think, oh, the man is the king, the man is the sheikh, the man at wife. He is the cleaner. He's the servant. He rings the bell so that his boss will come to check up and see is everything okay. Okay, those kind of things, those kind of humor. Played on both stereotypical, but because we're no longer in binary divisions, then you cannot predict, especially with the presence of Uranus, you cannot predict the stereotypical gender play that's going to happen here, and you cannot predict the stereotypical BDSM role. And this is so important. It's so important. Because what you may think is this person, oh, they're supposed to be submissive and they're acting like they're running the show. They're trying to fool me. They're trying to gaslight me. No, they're actually testing you to see if you can treat them as a king when they are below you and not when they are above you. They're seeing, they had this scene in mind. This is when they think about BDSM, about being submissive, they think, no, the power of submission is that I put myself to the service of that, the person who's the dom in the situation, It's because I have the power, because I run this show, and I, of my kindness, submit myself to him. But if he does something wrong with that submission, poof, off with his head, right? Um, and Lilith is very much the raw instinct. So she can get at your heart's desires and see through what's happening there, or that Lilith being you, or somebody else being the Lilith. And you need to be willing to accommodate and to become self-aware, and instead of accusing, try to see her point of view. Try to see, like, if you're having a conflict in this full moon, try to see the other person as the sun, as the king, as the rule, and you as the person that they serve. What is your relation to service, your relation to servants, your relation to having servants, your relation to being a servant? Okay, because a leader, a king, is nothing but the servant of the people. That being said, you do not mistreat servants, right? So there's honor and respect running across this ecosystem that needs to be tended to, and wherever honor and respect is not placed, is not existing, this full moon is also about abolishing or banishing or releasing that place. Also within your soul, where have you been disrespectful, okay, to the authority or to the shine or to the rulership of the other, or for yourself in your life? Okay, this is a chance that is a bit of inconvenience to be exposed to these places and to alter these places, to let go and to put humor in the situation. And even if you're the person who's been doing, I say, I'm doing this, like, this is the kink that I only do with this person, and this is the sex that I have with that person, and that person has so and so relation to me, that's so and so. It's like, oh damn, I've called the Madonna horse symptom a kink for quite a while. That's something I should be tending to. Okay, you're the winner, and the person that you have offended by this is the winner too, because they understand that they're not being discredited or disvalued. It's like, this is your own problem. It's like, you're being aware, you're taking account of where you have been, the problematic X in the equation, and by merit of tending to that, you're also sending yourself healing, you're also sending healing to others. Now, I promised I will do this, thank you, viewers, for being here. I promised I will do the 12 signs, so this is 13247. I think I cannot comment myself, and I do not have a moderator, so I will do the signs from the sign of the ascendant here, and this is Virgo. Virgo. This full moon happens with Leo being in your 12th and Aquarius being in your 6th. So the issue at hand is the 12th and the 6th. That can be, you started something to do. It can either be, maybe you have a business to do with hotels, hospitality, hospital, jail. Okay, maybe you're working with inmates or something, or are an inmate, which I hope you're healing and recovering or rehabilitating or whatever, or some sort of isolation or retreat, and now you're going back. Perhaps you've started a retreat. Maybe you went, what, this could even be like, maybe around August, you were in a mental hospital, okay, because 12th house, mental things, or you were at the retreat, or maybe you took a holiday, you took a retreat to take care of your psychological well-being, your mental state. And at that retreat, you've been eating well, okay? And then the sun comes into Saturn sign, and this rules the body. And guess what? It has been taking its toll on your skin, on your nervous system. And now you're like, well, I've been going to that place, or maybe you went to a mental hospital and they served horrible meals there for your health, good meals, but not for your health. And now you're like, oh damn, I've been checking at the doctor, and my biannual um, meeting, and then I see that my blood pressure has gone skyrocketing, and I can only test that to the food that I've been eating since I've been hospitalized in that mental hospital, which I went to treat my mental health. But this is obviously not going to be good for my mental health, so I must make a change in my nutrition so I can be both mentally and physically healthy. Okay, because one affects the other. Another example could be you went on a vacation, a retreat, a hotel, and then you've been dining well, or um, you something about your job change. You need to change the job. You need to let go of a job, let go of an employee. Maybe you've been on vacation. Maybe you went on a retreat, um, and you're actually running a company, and then you come for the biannual check, and you see that while you were not there, some of the employees were not really operating. And so my suggestion to you, if this is the case, do give it another, before you fire everybody, do give it another 6 months where you learn from the employees. Instead of coming to teach them, you see the data and you're like, oh my God, how did, like, what, where were they immediately you think daddy wasn't here, mommy wasn't here, and so the children were making a party, inviting everyone and making the entire room dirty, which can be also the case depending on the house, but not this ascendant. The best thing to do is to try and see where, like, what do they need, what is going on, have them teach you. It's like, no, don't come with judging and lecturing, but if it's a report and you're like meeting with your employees, I I've seen this report, and what I come to learn from you is what what do you believe you would need from me for you to have a better performance. Okay, that would be a good setting for the meeting. And then you can learn, because people, when you do put your heart in your sleeve, people do tend to be authentic. If you do allow them to say, well, there's this creative project that I've been passionate about and I'd really like to have the time to tend to. It's like, would you believe that working half time here or reducing your job here would help you to do that, or to have flexible ways where when you begin to do money there, you can reduce slowly your job here, and we can, adjust for that as a company. You believe that would be something that would benefit you. So the hell yeah, but I've been dealing with shame to say that because I didn't know I would accept that. Like, well, it's obviously way better for me than for us to later work as colleagues, and your business to recommend my business to recommend your business when you grow, than for you to be an underperforming employee, and then for me to think, oh, this is underperforming, I should and everybody suffers. So it's much better to find the source of thing, and the source of the thing can be them wanting to do something creative and to shine as well, with the sun being in Aquarius. And so your employees want to shine, they want the shine time. How do you support them around that? Not by paternalizing them, definitely not when Saturn is like at home. It's not going to work. But even if you unconsciously do that, then be able to take criticism, and take everything you learned on that retreat, on what you started, and where you were in August. You got some tools there, you got some insights there. Use everything, apply everything to withstand this difficult position where your shine is not like, so you're being criticized basically in a situation where you think you are supposed to be the one criticizing. Virgo ascendant, right? So ascendant Libra. This is happening in your 11th and 5th house. Remember the example of, mom and daddy were not here. I went to a conference and then the children have been wrecking the house. That's more like it. Okay? In August, you were tending to something in your 11th house. And now the sun comes to your 5th and the children are not happy, or your hobbies are not being tended to, whatever represents joy, fun, pleasure, um, in your, in your life, he's suffering and has some teachings for you. Because when you tend to your, and this is also the correction, when you tend to your pleasures, when you tend to your creative life, when you tend to your romantic, romances, to have some romance in your life or in your relationships, when you tend to your children, your goals, they do not suffer. Okay, at that moment when you are with your children, you don't tend, you can't be in a conference, right? Unless you're doing Zoom. But what happens later is that you have more to give to the world. And now it's the time to see the checks and balances, okay? And put some humor in the situation, be able to laugh at yourself. Also, with Lilith in your 11th, you might be seeking sexual gratification with your activism. And it doesn't necessarily have to take, it sounds bad, it's not bad at all. You think about adult film stars who decide to go into positive sexual education and have um, I don't know, a workshop where they're showing themselves masturbating. This was actually a real case. I actually know a person who did that. And they felt very happy. It stirred a lot of controversy. But Lilith might be seeking that show or erotic show, to put it an erotic show that's public. And your romantic life, so you can think about the person who is doing maybe erotic dancing, okay, or stripping. And they have a great show and they like being worshipped and admired and this and that. And then, they want to meet with their, they date someone and they can't really, like, they're not really turned, like, they satisfy themselves already there. And, like, when you come to appetize yourself and maybe that dating partner is so excited, oh, like, dating this person, who knows what the sex will be like. And they're like, can't even bring themselves to relax and enjoy, sensual pleasure. What was on stage was more sexually gratifying than what you actually get in a date. Um, Again, only with this aspect, okay? This is the combination of a certain cycle. It's not going to be like that forever, but it's just like, hey, you might be reassessing and thinking, oh, well, I definitely need to pay attention to being able to enjoy sex off stage, okay? Or maybe have a little, maybe, you want to do a little performance for your partner. It's like it's not anywhere near what it was in the club or something like that. But more so, it's very likely that you're doing something in the conference that has some sort of erotic gratification for you by the sense of your performing. It doesn't have to be anything sexual at all. Erotic gratification is just chi, it's like life energy. And then, your children don't get as much attention and they're like critical of you, or your romantic partner is not getting the erotic, is not getting your erotic nature. But then again, the sun, the ruling Lilith is in the 5th house, so you could actually, you could actually be getting, like, there's a bit of a tension between the Lilith facets of your erotic desires and the sun that is in your 5th, but it's like you meet somebody at the conference, they are so turned on by you, then you try to get on together, and then, like, you might be disappointed or you might find it difficult, or because Saturn can also bring challenges here. But that's can be another transient thing. But because this is something that started 6 months ago, I think Lilith just adds, because Lilith was in Cancer back then, Lilith just adds to the tension. She can be even the resolution of the tension. Like, you really need to listen to your heart, but your heart is also in your 10s right now, not necessarily in a sexual way, okay? Our entire body is intelligence, okay? genitals, if you they channel them, you do all these, body awareness stuff, they can tell you, well, you know what? You need to start this hobby. You should not concentrate all the time in conferences. When you start this hobby, you're going to have much better analogies. And they're going to tell you that in their own particular way. Or they're going to take you into your hobby and strike a performative thing on something that you do as a hobby that's not usually performative, which is also the merit of the sun being there. And they can like take you on that bodily experience, just also quite vibrant. They say, I'm turned on about that. I'm turned on about that. And then you start thinking what you're turned on about as something that's a part of your heart's desire. Okay, there's my heart's desire. Okay, my heart desires to be, I don't know, an actor. And you say, I'm turned on about playing the scientist, though. Okay, so Lilith can actually help you to understand through what, like, my heart grows when I think about acting. I get the heart in the pants when I think about acting this character. Okay, that's how Lilith Leo can operate. Ascendant Scorpio. So this thing's happening in your 10th and 4th house. So the ruler of the full moon is in your 4th house, opposing the moon. It's fully visible. Whatever you've been, well, for you it's interesting because, Cancer would be the 9th. You can get a moment of international fame when you're at home. Okay, this could actually signify some paparazzi even, because the sun is in your 4th house, and you're at home, you're with your family, and then you're visible there, and you get in recognition that's a bit international. So this can signify a bit of paparazzi, or just something invading your home environment, or you're in your home environment, or alternatively, you are attending to a home matter and can't be there for the big prize. Okay, or you're being criticized, or you're taking the big prize and then you're taking it home and your family is like, well, you didn't do the dishes. Okay. Yeah, have you been aware of the fact that this is really beautiful that you won, I don't know, this Oscar, but I've been doing the dishes for the entire 6 months, and I just gave birth to a new baby, by the way. If you remember. So you could get like that kind of thing. Or alternatively, you could be getting recognition from home. And you can go about saying, well, I'm famous, but I'm famous for something that you're not supposed to be famous about. And something like that. And that's, maybe the character that you played or the role that you played. And that could be charming for, I don't know, whoever is with you. And you can solve it with some humor that makes the Venusian character in your life look pretty. And the Venusian is the 7th, so this could be a spouse. Okay, so you have a big moment of recognition. You better be a bit self-conscious about this, and kind of like honor, like really really honor the person that is your spouse right now, because they have probably been supporting you for at least 6 months, that you've been getting the limelight. And while they understand that this was something that sometimes one person sacrifices for another, sometimes some of that, this is also their time to shine here. And you really need to make sure you acknowledge their achievements, their light, their shine, their meaning in your life, not only as the housewife or the house husband. So you can get out of this without you just need to do a little bit of juggling with your passion in life, that's your career, and your home life that are also important to your sense of stability and security. Sagittarius ascendant. This is happening in your ninth and third house. You could be receiving some people who come from abroad. Somebody from abroad could come visit you or your neighbors. Um, and there maybe you planned it or scheduled it, you know, in August. It could also be somebody who was a teacher or, you know, higher studies kind of stuff. That comes to visit your neighborhood. You're being having or you're getting a visit from someone, and then you really need to honor. And then, you know, Venus in your fourth, you really need to honor somebody in your home environment. Maybe a coworker that's present there in the sixth house. Or maybe you even have your spouse working for you, then you need to honor her role in your success. Okay, it's very important in these times of recognition and getting the shine. Oh, and I'm honoring, like I could not have been doing this if I didn't have somebody who took care of the things that that were not my shine zone at that time, and I could not have been shining without their presence in my life. And I'm so grateful, and I'm so this, and I believe this is the time to do that, because you're gonna have to do that a lot. You're gonna have to bring humor to the situation, because you definitely been concentrated on your shine zone only in the past 6 months. um and like, yeah, and you're getting recognition, or you're getting like somebody's coming to visit you, or your neighbor. Okay, so don't discard the people that have been a major contributor to your success. Ascendant Capricorn. So for you, this is happening in your second and eighth house. You could be working as an accountant, you could be working as an advisor, you may have been getting investment, and now you're applying something here, and this could be the skill that you're making money of, and that's something. This could be the skill you're making money of, and that is now as you're making money out of it and you're getting paid for that, maybe have to give in some reports, or maybe you find out that, you know, what you've invested in is not as shiny as you have expected, because now you're getting the returns, and it's not that you're not getting returns, you do get returns. um, but then again, you have to make sure that you acknowledge this. Who is this person in your eighth that comes to visit, you know, your second? Okay. Do you give your accountants their credit? Because your accountants may have done some work, so some shiny work for you to be able to get money. Maybe they helped you with taxes, maybe this, maybe that. Now you really need to honor them, to acknowledge them, and you know, perhaps some of your best investment skills, or some of your um, wealth. Maybe you have been becoming billionaire thanks to generational wealth, because eighth house is also inheritance. So if you get this, if you get your name on Forbes, and generational wealth of yours, or of people who contributed wealth to you, played a role in that, you better bet you want to be quoting, saying something ridiculous like, I could not have been doing this self-made billionaire thing without the genealogy of my, you know, factory founding fathers or whatnot. So then you can get to take the crown and enjoy the win. So if you're acknowledging your privilege and grateful, and that, and you know, able to laugh at yourself and able to laugh at your self-made billionaire, and that could be a great way to get that honoring that you absolutely get here, and not forget the people next to you. I've been getting this neurological thing, trying to understand why am I getting that. Am I thirsty and I just need to drink? Something in the head here. Very weird. Trying to get that or see if that's something relating to the delineation, or it's just something that, well, I don't know. So ascendant, that was Capricorn. So ascendant Aquarius. Oh, this is interesting. Well, ascendant Aquarius. I think the broadcaster will need to make sure they absorb all their vitamins in their sixth house, so they don't think they have neurological issues in their 12th. Um, that's a good self delineation. This is happening in your first house. The ruler of the seventh in your first. Somebody might be expecting you to pop the question. Or somebody may be popping the question to you. There's a gender issue around this. There's a tricky way of how to do this popping the question thing without falling into gender categories with this aspect, um, and still honor. Like, there's something very tricky about the situation. But definitely, when I talked about the ring and how will the ring look, like how to honor the polarities of maybe you desiring a partnership that is committed in a non-conventional way, because you're a fixed sign, um, and there's something pomposious about the way that your partner desires to be proposed to or proposes to you. And you're just gonna have to be able to laugh at yourself for desiring to be as admired as the Leo part, but finding that um, um, not allowing yourself to be so, or having an opinion that this is not, or cognitively thinking. Cognitively feeling is a great word with the sun in Aquarius. Cognitively feeling. You're cognitively feeling about something. Um, so there's a certain commitment, whether in business or in your personal life, that you're like, you better take this commitment. Somebody wants to be proposed here. And there's a tricky way of how to go about it, because to somebody, either like they're very, they're very feminist, or there's something with the gender, and that somebody wants to be royally acknowledged, and you're not sure about how to go about this because the traditional way won't do, not for you and not for them, and you don't really know how to do, like, you like this person, but there's still like, you're unsure of how to propose, or you try to think your way into do that, or somebody proposes you, um, and you understand like the decision has to be made, and there's a sense of humor, joy, and your joyous humor around this decision. Okay, maybe you've been the known rebels that now, but you find out that you both kind of want to be known as the fluffy couple, and you're like, okay, we're not sure, like, kind of like, I want to propose you, but I'm not sure how to go about it. That's kind of the feels like, I want to propose you, and everything I think about marriage doesn't make sense with how much I desire you to be my husband or my wife. So that would be the like the style of like me, like don't have any of these people knowing my channel if you do choose to take that exact phrasing. Um, yeah, but that would be very funny if, if that happened. Okay, Ascended Pisces. This is happening in your 6th and 12th, with Aquarius being your 12th. And so I have this ascendant, and I've been trying to think about the ridiculous ways in which I have been tending to my physical health that may have impacted my mental health, um, uh, because that's just the axis, or job and its effect on them. I've been thinking about wealth and well-being, and how do I make a living in a way that contributes to my well-being. And I might have a surprising revelation around that, like the way in which that can be possible. You know what? One of the things that I noticed is that I've been constantly preaching people to not overwork, and like this is the fifth consecutive hour. And thank you for my dear audience for being present with me. I'm not to not be alone with this. This is my fifth consecutive hour of live recording, which I deem as healthy to my mental health. I deem as that this is something I need to do to be healthy. So there's this tension between Saturn that says, stop, lie down, stop, and Leo that wants to perform and wants to shine and needs this performance. Okay? There's this something here that's just ridiculous. I've been the person, running around revolting the notion of labor, all the while working my butt off, still like, you know, and sometimes when I take care of dogs, it's like, that's less than minimum wage. Like I can do other things. There's a reason I do that, but it's like, how have I been in applying what I preach for? And then this constant mechanism is like, well, if I'm working with pets, I enjoy it. I love it. I like, um, and it's like, but girl, you need to get paid, you know? And that's like, well, I hope it's not like a tiny mental, like not mental crisis, but sort of like, you know, with there's something ridiculous you've been starting. There's something ridiculous about the new beginning you've made in the sixth house. Um, I don't quite know what it is for me, but it's definitely something ridiculous about it. And now you come, the sun is in your 12th house, and you see something that you have, like you, right now the sun is in the 12th house, you see you're this luminary in the 12th. Okay, so you see things you haven't seen before. Um, and there's just something there that, you know, you're gonna have to acknowledge about how the state of your heart affects your mental health. Are you being heartbroken? Are you being have you been tending to your heart? Okay, both physically and emotionally. Okay. Um, Maybe you got heartbroken at work. I know I have. I definitely, when I saw things, and then having to illuminate on the fact that I do have a desire to be a performer. I do have a desire to shine. I am of a leadership, royal, artistic creator, performer, actress, maybe like musician. What the heck is not like as the sun, my natal sun is in Taurus. Vlogger, whatnot, voicey person. And, you know, like, how has my acknowledging of that contributed to my mental health? And being aware of how have the times where I've not been acknowledging that contributed to the mental health that came along with that. It's like being in at work in situations or in situations where there was a constant need to shine that I have not been aware of and acknowledging, or thinking that just like, well, I can't be too like that, I can't be too like that, but that was getting me to be a very grumpy and bitter person. Um, and then how has that played a role in how I felt about work um, during like or being more moon in Leo, okay, my psychological need to be admired, to be the star of the show. Okay, what I liked about working with pets is that I'm like, I love pets, and I also love the way that they admire me. I also love that I become a leader there. Um, and then I think one of the places that I was working, then the person was like, well, I also need somebody to assist me with the cleaning, with this, with that. And I was like, wait, I was taking this job for my mental health. I was taking this job to heal, and as a job that is easy for me and that is joyous for me. And what you're asking me is very, like, it's very relevant to your requirements, but for me, it's not the job that is now contributing to my well-being. So I had to quit. Um, and so like they also were moving from to another place, but this was also something that they think about. Okay, you could try to understand how has the nature of your work been emotionally dependent. Okay, what emotional needs do you need to have satisfied in your work, in the service you give out to people? Okay, I know that the type of service, even volunteering, that they give out to people, I do like to be appreciated for. I do like, for example, consultation, free consultation, something that I've been given to people because um, I'm the leader in this situation, and I understand that I have this need to be admired. And so when people admire me, then I feel um, healthy by giving them act of service. Okay, so I don't criticize or deny that, just find an ethical way to meet that need that is not on the account of the people that I give the service to, okay? So don't patronize anybody, but also I find a way to meet that. For example, think about a musician giving a free show to people. It's obvious that they are contributing of their time for people who are priced out of me of seeing their show. It's also obvious that they desire to be clapped and to be, celebrated and appreciated for giving that show to people, and to appreciate it for this type of volunteering. So that's more like the Leo type for the sixth house, and you've been getting glimpses of that, and you've been reviewing how you see the sun, right? How you see the Leo house, if you've had resistance to it or unconscious, because Saturn, unconscious addiction, unconscious addiction for the sun. Okay, so you've been craving the sun in a certain unconscious way, but you may have had resistance to it as well. Um, and so you need to think about just these roles in your life. Okay, how do you accept the role of the sun and keep it ethical, right? Because it's sixth house and your well-being. Okay, how is tending to your heart or increasing your heartbeat for a while increasing like exercise and so on, the contraction and expansion of the heartbeat is beneficial to your mental health. What you didn't know that you didn't know there. Ascendant Aries. So this is happening in your fifth 11th, with the 11th being an Aquarius and the fifth being Leo. Um, your child could steal the show, and then like um, yeah, there's mediation about it. Child could steal the show. This can be one signification of that. Or you're being acknowledged for a creative project that you did, and so you have to be honoring. Um, Maybe you've been channeling, creatively channeling, and you've been getting messages from women. So, honoring these women, if you know who they are, honoring the Venusian in your life, the creativity, or honoring creativity as a Venusian thing, um, honoring Venus. We are Venus wisdom on a Venus day. We're on a Friday. Is something that's going to be very essential to the way that you take the prize when you win it in the 11th. Okay, you're getting recognition, public recognition for activism, and there are some hidden women contributor or women who may have been marginalized by you, and you don't see it because it's in the 12th, so it's very tricky for you. um, so you can just acknowledge that I know that by me my being here, I know that there, even now, that there are things that I probably don't see, or I may have forgotten people, and I like, or I would like to apologize ahead for the many people that I have forgotten, as I'm super excited and ridiculously happy to have somebody noticing me and my achievements. So it's my first time doing this or whatnot, or if it's consecutive, or it's like, I'm a good, let's say I'm a great actor. In my personal life, I'm also quite senile, and so I tend to forget people. Like that kind of humor play that you can offer to this status, or to this culmination, that can, because in this case it's genuine, it's the 12th house, something that you didn't know, you forget. Like if you're having a list of names that you need to give credit to, there's someone you forgot. The more humorous and self-aware and accountable that you can be about it, the better. It's gonna happen. Okay, if you acknowledge ahead of time that it's probably gonna happen, you probably, the nature of this thing is that you don't see them. That can probably be the best strategy to do this. And I'm being very strategic today, which is very fun. Like finding words and phrases, and this Mars and Gemini has been doing its thing on me. Um, so yeah, we are with Descendant Taurus. So this is happening in your 10th and 4th, with your 10th being Aquarius and 4th being Leo, and the Venus thingy being your 11th. You could be forgetting one of your colleagues. Um, but Venus is ruling Taurus, is ruling you. It can be you forget yourself a bit. You're doing something in like you're getting a status, you're getting recognition, maybe you're getting promotion. You know what this can be? It can be that like you're a director of the film or something like that, and or you're the main lead actor or something like that, and then you write everybody's name in the credit but yours. Like it's something like that. Because Venus is ruling you, and she's exalted in the 11th, and you're obviously getting a promotion or getting your status, you're being like, or somebody in your home is being public. It can mean also that somebody, somebody from your house, your family of origin is getting recognition. And you forget to mention you. So, you got to be humorous about it, but they definitely are going to have to come up with a public introduction of role in this case. Um, and you don't have to even be humorous about this. Like you're getting the help here, and it's like the situation is going to resolve itself in the way that it's made very clear that they need to come down from the heaven and remember they have, whether you're like spouse or like I don't know, or family or something, like you have been a major contributor and somebody just forgot it. Okay, so probably they've been very excited, maybe even a bit full of themselves, and like, you like, don't be ashamed to give them the look. They will get back to their senses and resolve the situation. um but that can be a bit of really an aggravating moment for you because you're that Venus, okay? You're that Venus who's been supported by Uranus, and is being aggravated by the action of Mars. Okay, that tries the Sun. So, but Mars can resolve its own problems and insert humor to the frame, and things go about in a better way. Ascendant Gemini. So Mars is at your house. Whoever now, because you are like, because this is your first house and it's not ruled by Mars. This whole full moon is happening in your third and ninth, and so um, you might be the joke that Mars person tries to play, and like this is, and it can be one of your siblings or neighbors that is held in high honor in the ninth house, and you are, the ruler of your ascendant is in your 10th house, applying to conjunct Pluto. Somebody might try to play a joke on you, or you're the person who is exposing who that solar figure forgot. Who's that Venus figure that the solar figure forgot? But I don't see this Mercury making Venus as Venusian aspects, okay? So you could very well be um, the person that somebody makes a joke about and needs to reframe that joke. Okay? Now, look to your neighbors. Look to your siblings. Somebody there is getting high honor in the ninth house, so maybe abroad, maybe in a high learning school, maybe in a religious institution, and they making a funny joke and you're the topic of that joke. They may be getting a sexist joke and your Mercury is also gender adaptable, okay? So you might be like, yes, well, women have penises too, and they have to frame themselves according to these times. Um, I don't see a connection between Mars and you, so I don't necessarily see that you're the objective by, like, it's not something that's done on purpose, but you're like, and also, you could be a bit scapegoated here. Not necessarily from being malicious towards you, okay? It's not necessarily an act of malice, depending on what role Mars plays in your chart. Um, but there's just structure of power that needs to change, and
with your voice, you, Venus, you can hold them accountable for doing that. So they're not being malicious on purpose, but it's enough. Like telling this type of jokes is like we've had it with that. So this can be one of the cases. Um, Something in your daily routine. Maybe you did a daily routine thing that actually culminates to be um, giving you high honor in um, the patriarchs, okay, whether it's a religious institution of academia, which is religious institution in structure. Um, doesn't matter what you learn, it's that's the um, and or abroad, traveling abroad. So there's something maybe in your daily routine that you've changed around your neighborhood and it's giving you high honor. And yeah, but somebody's when they're given this high honor, maybe they're your sibling, maybe they're your neighbor. They're striking a joke that is a bit on your account, and you're expected to just take it elegantly. What you can do about it is with Venus, okay? Voice the voice, voice, voice yourself, okay? Um, or you can make, if you're an artist or caricaturist, you can make a bit of a caricature of the moment and put it on social media in a way that is elegant. Okay, then it would be provoking, but in a way that is elegant, um, and then they can like they have to take the joke now as well because they've been laughing at you and you've been forced to take that joke. They can take. If I can think about back to my sugar-free lemonade days, then that was about, well, you have been expecting me to take a certain joke about me or to be the center of a joke of the community or to be singled out in a way that sexually harasses me. I'm. This is, well, now you're like, now the rain is my caricature of the way that I have been seeing the situation. And like that was literally a sugar-free lemonade thing when I think about it. Like that was what sparked sugar-free lemonade, and then it was a satire. So if you're the Gemini person here, um, what the way for you to it's like just being practical communication is not going to go here, because there's no connection between Mercury and Mars. But there is a connection between Venus, and then you give Venus the power of the tension, and you take the humor into some sort of form of art or caricature. And then you can post on social media, and then that other person will be expected to take that as a joke, and then they can either publicly apologize or reframe themselves. I don't expect it to be the starting of a quarrel, but it's more a culmination of something. And they can expect to be humorous or take accountability of the way that they have been ridiculous. Okay, granting that they're not like a total, what people would call narcissist, um, they can probably understand that they've been stepping on the wrong toes and say, well, I can see where um, I have used outdated humor and apologize. Okay, and the way that your satire is constructed is better be, not fiercely angry, but more like diplomatically stating your point. um you will be making them feel the way they made you feel, but not with it like it's Venus. It's not going to be with the intensity of something that they can't digest. It's like you can get you don't have to feel the exact same way. It's going to be like a very much diminished version of that, and you can say, okay, like I'm much rather that you would just told me, and then say, well, I tried to, but I realized that my being able to communicate this practically will not get the point across as that slight, work of art. That is also an elegant way to tell you how I feel and to enlighten you in a way that I couldn't do with practical communication. Okay, so when you can have that and that, you first you get the Venus, then you get the Mercury, and Mercury in Capricorn is why I'm being so strategic and like practical with everything. I can think about like my communication is like it has some issues and problems, but it's more like very practical communication, detailed communication. That's interesting. So yeah, ascendant Cancer. Last but not least, oh no, I will have ascendant Leo too. So, ascendant Cancer, your ruler is a part of this, illumination. It's happening. You're in the second house. So, second, 8. Your ruler is in the second. The ruler of the second is in the 8. So, your values, and your accountant are having a self identity conflict. Okay? And your accountant, it can be the person who manages your accounts. It can be your advisor for investments. It can be your the person that you're supposed to inherit money from. This can be even parent in this case, because Moon Sun is also mother, father, or Sol and Celine as caregivers. Very interested to say mother, father, in the pretty like so outdated. And you really identify with what you value in here. But what you value, there's the representation of what you value is actually within the other. So you could be possessive of someone, or someone could also be possessive of you, or it's mutual possession. Who knows? This person can be ascendant Leo, right? So the question of what you value pertains to your personal path. It's not something I can advise you on. You are actually needing a consultation. Not for me. I cannot advise you on this because the type of consultation that you're needing is also legal. Mercury being in the sign of structures, you need legal advice. Both you and your partner are very much involved in something business-wise or financially, and what has started that was blooming, that now both you are identifying this project that you have mutually with this partner. That could be your accountant, that could be your spouse, because 8th house can also be the joint assets. And you consider it your skill. Okay? They consider it their shine zone. There's something deeply psychological that requires you to be very tender with each other. And that Mars is in your 12th house. So if you, let's say, if they are Aries ascendant, or Mars ruled ascendant, like Scorpio, they're acting in a way that permeates your mental health. They're doing some activity that's unconscious. This whole thing, instead of going crazy, because you might tend to go crazy, Mars is in your 12th house, so the planet resolving this tension, Chaos, the ruler of your 5th and 10th, is in your 12th house. So on a career level, also on a romantic, creative level with your children, you're operating right now in unconscious ways. The reason for that is that what you have now, joint assets with your partner or your accountant or whatnot, this issue at hand, You are emotionally identified as this is the skill that is representing your personal path. And your actions are driven by this notion. Okay? But they're creating an unconscious conflict. And the place where you should be humorous about is a place that is hidden to your eye. Okay, the place that you could strike a bit of humor, or you could strike a joke that can be really offensive, or your partner can strike a joke that can be really offensive to you. And um, and it touches on both your career house, Aries, and your pleasure house. So tremendously huge parts of your identity here, that's blended with whoever this partner is, are being provoked. And you really need somebody outside the relationship, whether it's the relationship with your accountant or somebody you inherit money from or somebody you have joint assets with. You really need a consultation um, that would get you to understand what this Mars is doing, why is this Mars doing that. They're not being malicious on purpose, but there's a situation here where whoever the sun person is in your chart, they see your skill as their asset. Okay. um they invest in you, or they invested money in you that allowed you to develop your skill, as a result of which you've developed your life path that has to do with this skill. And now you're making money and you want your share because it's your creative thing, and they want their dividends from the investment. Okay, it can be something like that. Okay, they see that some investment was made energetically, financially, in terms of also teaching, because Saturn is teaching, is knowledge, delivery of knowledge, that someone expects to have dividends from, whether in terms of appreciation, emotional acknowledgement, or guilt, right? Money. That someone didn't take into account. There are some assets that someone didn't take into account. You, Ascendant Cancer, identify yourself with your skill. But your skill could not have been developed if not for the investment that you got from this Saturn person or from your partner. Okay, you got some investment, whether it was emotional, whether it was intellectual challenge, which can be the case with Aquarius, whether it was um, sensual, okay, sensual energy. Maybe they gave you of their sexual energy, okay, because this is also the house of that type of merging. Maybe they have tended to your wounds. Okay, maybe you had some wounds around your self-worth and they have been helping you to sort it out. And now you get money. But you're required to invest it. It can also be the case, depending on who that other partner is, that you have made money with your skill and now you're required to reinvest it. Okay, put it back into the business and they expect you to do that. Like, you got your money, now you're expected to invest in our joint property. Okay, let's take a loan together, buy a house. And somebody, some Mars figure is operating in a way that's unconscious, and it's like touching something that you don't see. And Mercury is in your seventh. Okay, So some Mars activity is affecting, and this Mars activity is coming from your career, is coming from your fifth house, Lord, or even children, okay, and acting in a way. And there is required this legal consultation that is required in this situation because it's a tender situation, okay. Um, and you have been operating in ways that are unconscious in your career house and in your romantic life now. Okay, gotta be very cautious because this is Mars and Mars is penetrative, and if Mars aggravates Venus in that way, darling, your entire world could go down with your Venus. So if you are aware of that and it doesn't catch you by surprise, then you can call for a higher order. You can call for divination. You can call for um, channeling. Not me. I don't feel like I can give you a good contribution in this sense. Um, like I don't think that I could be a good advisor. Okay, so there are cases that I can take on. This not a case that I can take on because you also need legal advising. Mercury is in Capricorn sign, so advising regarding your bank account, regarding everything, you need a legal advice. And also very important that you will put into light, or at least if your partner or accountant say, okay, I understand there's something operating, there's a way that I'm operating, and there's a way that I'm strategically working in, and there's something hidden around the motives that I do it. I need to sit with myself and understand why am I acting the way that I'm acting. And you take accountability and you say, I don't see, I know that there is something there that I don't see, but that is something that it's a message that I've been given, and I want to retreat to myself and see how can I operate in this way. Of course, it can be, like a child that is watching what's going on with the parents and acting in a certain way, or a boss that's acting in a certain way, or there's noticing what's going on. Maybe you are like married to someone and you have a business, and then you're also employed for someone or contractor for someone, someone's superior to you in some other situation. They're like trying to take advantage of the whole thing for their purposes. Um, or they're just trying to be strategic and not try to take advantage of you, but they're doing activity that is invisible to you and can aggravate your Venus, okay, can aggravate either your sister or your siblings or someone Venusian dear to you, or your spouse if you're a man with a woman spouse, that can be. But I feel like you really need a consultation here. And you, like, if you do take consultation, um, try to understand the things that Mars rules. You much rather have a woman consultant because she's going to, like, you really need, she's going to tend to that tension. She's going to make sure that things run in the way that is in favor of the Venusian. But it's not necessarily a woman in the sense of what she has between her legs. It's someone who represents the interest of Venusians or creative artists or people, or gender non-conforming people. But be careful of the Mars in Gemini thing, okay? This Mars in Gemini must not have be something that your consultant has, okay? They much better be more Venus and Pisces. Whatever they have Venus and Pisces, you need to go there because they will see if they are the Venus in Pisces person, they're being aggravated by this. And if you go there and you say, please, there's something that I don't see around something, and I understand it's of the nature of strategy, of the nature of action, unconscious actions, unconscious motives for actions, or maybe I'm being contrarian in a certain way, maybe my sense of humor. Could you give me a good reflection? I will pay you for your time of what the issue is. She will find this issue, and because she's triggered by that, she can honor your and appreciate your efforts to change, and she can find a delicate yet provoking way to show you what the matter is. So like I said, if your Mars is a penis and that's penetration, if you've been penetrating something unconsciously in a way that is like not really taking the Venusian into account, then your wealth and peanuts can go down. This can be something that's like, woohoo. Maybe you haven't noticed that. Like, how have you been? Some people take their business stuff to bed or their behavior to bed, and that when it happens in other configurations, that can be lovely. When this happens in the 12th house, that can be self-undoing and can also be hurtful towards the other person, or that you are the Venusian person that's done to you. But in this case, Mars is ruling your fifth, so like there are many configurations of that. But whoever is Venusian in here they have direct, like they have they have an issue with that Mars. They have been dying to let out and like spill the tea on, and if you give them the chance to do it, then they won't be as venomous as they plan to be. Okay, they're like, okay, you're taking accountability. Okay, we'll be just to delve this issue. They'll be a lot more elegant about it, and still provoking because hey, it's sextile in Uranus and Taurus, but a lot more elegant about it, and a lot more considering and willing to show you what your blind spot is without exploiting it because they feel that you're being exploiting them. That's what's happening here, is absolutely that. And since the seventh house is Saturn ruled, it is with the sun, and Venus rules the spouse. So if you're a man married to a woman or a woman married to a woman, that woman is represented by Venus. It's highly likely that you've been aggravating this Venus from your unconscious motives because you feel that you're entitled to something here that they feel that they should actually get dividends from. So this is a financial issue at hand. Don't let it get sexual. Tackle that. It's not impossible to tackle with a lot of awareness and care and genuine care for each other. You can do this. Ascendant Leo. Yep. So for you have the ruler of your 12th in your first house and the ruler of your first in your 7th house. Okay. There is some self-undoing around the way you run about relationships that is exposed right now. So you started something 6 months ago, and right now you're becoming more aware of the way the moon cycles are affecting your physical health, your physical well-being, your body, your very visible thing, and your life path. Okay? You might get to discover that even though you're ruled by the sun, the moon is still the closest planet to the earth. Okay, and the way that the moon is running is affecting your life, is affecting your mental state a lot more than you knew. And the agent of discovery is the partner. So they're reflecting something to you. Okay? Or you have been thinking about yourself. And this again brings me back to that sexist joke about this Muslim couple that was presenting the situation of how it's like a counter sexist joke, that like how the men are being seen, like how people think men treat women in Muslim cultures and what's actually happening. And this joke is so very common to people of these cultures, and like this is such a familiar joke in various terms, and how you actually discover, as a solar figure or like the man of the house, that you're much more moon ruled than you have expected, and that joke was of a self-aware couple, but this transit for you, there are places where you thought you were ruled by the sun, and then you realize that, well, the moon As a Pisces ascendant, the sun rules my sixth house, and sixth house is also the kind of daily routines and daily jobs. And I would have this constant expectation that if I'm passionate about something, I'm going to do it every day, all day, like a solar order of things. And when that didn't happen, I thought that I don't want it enough. When I discovered moon cycles, that actually rules my fifth house and fertility and stuff and all that, children, and I actually realized that, first of all, my moon is natively in Cancer, and I actually realized that I'm also night chart, and the expectation that I will do the 9 to 5, even in the best of professions, is up. No, it's not that there's something wrong with me, it's that the moon is the closest. And I'm ruled by the moon. So how can I expect even my work, the most solid, ruled aspects of my life, and some being in the third, how can I expect that to be the same every day? It's not going to happen if I don't take into accountability my cycle or my menstrual cycle and the cycle of the moon. I'm not going to be able to operate in any, functioning solar figure of part of my life. It's not going to happen. And so that expectation that if my heart is in it, it's going to happen every day from sunrise to sunset, in a way that's happening, but it's happening by the order of the moon. When you are the ascendant Leo, you're expecting, or you have this expectation that things are going to run on a daily basis. And here the sun is in your relationship house, your seventh house. So you're both fixed signs. There's this expectation of something fixed. The moon comes and tells you, wait. Within that fixed solar routine that you're seeking in your relationships, there is something very cyclic, transient. Every moment in the axis of retirement is transient. Every moment in a meditation is transient. You might meditate every day, but every moment is transient. The feeling, the sensation that go through your body as you are standing, like a pole still, they're transient. And you've been called to acknowledge this. And to be able to be humorous about your solar path and how moon affects what you didn't know. Or you can think, if I'm the sun looking at the cosmos, I'm thinking all these planets are moving around. They're just circling around me. They're just circling around me. And there's until I discover there's that guy in the front that has been taking everything that I do and just transmitting that into this weird planet. Just one of the planets that's running here. It's called planet Earth. And all the people on that planet, they look to this planet that's surrounding that Earth planet as if that's the center of their universe. And I'm circling around them. That's insane. Okay? So you've been having you can see how you're being seen from the point of view of the other. And you might think you're the solar figure, but your significant other in this point in life sees you as very, very moony. Okay? Or you might see yourself as an inspiration, and the other sees you as a person who reflects things to everybody. Or you might see yourself as an inspiration by the merit of your telling people how powerful they are, and your significant other can come out with even something that is almost humorous. It's like, you're the funny thing about you is that your greatest soul is in reflecting other people's suns to them, and that can actually make you like the moon, because you're reflecting the sun, the soul and the heart of the person in front of you to that person. That's what I admire about you, and that is very funny, because the moon reflects stuff, and I think about you like the moon to everybody's sun, while you are the sun to my moon, or something, something romantic of that sort. And and that can be surprising to you, but it can also be something that you accept humor as. You see, there's nothing wrong in this, portrayal. um, that leads me to the end of this episode, which was quite lengthy, 3 hours lengthy, and I still have my audience with me, which is shocking and surprising and beautiful. So I'm so grateful for you to witness me, basically. So I hope this has been informative. I hope this has been helpful, and enjoy this full moon full of discoveries, and hopefully some sense of humor that is more up to date than outdated, sexist, or what the. It's just a good time to change our sense of humor, um, reframe things, and acknowledge the Venusian in our lives and the importance of arts, of being artistic, of merging, of blending, of um, that which we find difficult to discern, or the ambiguity. Okay, the beauty of ambiguity in our lives. That's also Neptunian quality of Venus. So I'll see you in my next episode, and thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.